being here and your continued commitment to this process. First, a special thank you to those who came out to Troy last week and last night for our general session and our first meeting group on the tax levy implications. I also want to thank those of you who are reaching out by phone and email. We appreciate all the questions. Your engagement and thoughtfulness and thoughtful questions are much appreciated. Thank you for joining us in Wynantskill here this evening for our planning tour, our discussions, and our conversation last night, or later on tonight, that will be on high school choice. Your presence and participation truly make a difference. I also want to take a moment and acknowledge our WTA teachers who are here tonight in presence and wearing their I Love WTA t-shirts. Your solidarity, positivity, and your willingness to explore possibilities alongside of us is inspiring. I said I wasn't going to look at you because this is going to be hard. Nope, I'm not going to look at them. Your consistent, student-centered approach deserves recognition and deep appreciation. I also want to thank all of our non-instructional staff who's here as well, and who have shown such great support throughout this process. Thank you. This process has been a year in the making, from last year's optimization study and even beginning to consider a feasibility study. We have not been afraid to ask tough questions and to face uncertainty head on, and that takes courage. Through it all, our teachers and staff have continued to put the needs of our students first, showing flexibility, open-mindedness, and unwavering commitment to our district and what's best for kids. In my 14 years here, I've seen this community weather many, many storms with grace and collaboration. The child-centered spirit here with all of you is what makes GD so special, and it's what makes Gardner Dickinson strong. I'm extremely proud of our entire community for this support, the district, the teamwork, the openness to possibility. We will continue to build a future that reflects the very best of GD. Before we begin tonight's work, I'd also like a heartfelt thank you to the Troy City School Board and administration. Welcome to Wynantskill. Thank you for the countless opportunities you've already given our students and our families. Your unconditional support over the past 100+ years has been an incredible gift to the Wynantskill community. It's one that continues to shape the lives of generations of kids from Wynantskill. You have stood beside us, always ready to help our kids learn, grow, and thrive. We are deeply grateful for your partnership, your patience, and your kindness as we move through this very emotionally challenging time. It's vitally important, this initiative for our Wynantskill community, but thank you for being patient with us. I'd also like to take a moment to thank Bob Bridenstine, and Brian Schmidt for their outstanding work and guidance through this process. From leading last year's optimization study, thoughtfully engaging both communities in the feasibility study, your insight, professionalism, and city leadership have been invaluable. You've helped us navigate a very complex issue with care and respect. We are truly thankful for your dedication to helping our schools and community make informed, student-centered decisions. Your collaboration, compassion, and commitment makes all the difference. Together, all of us can ensure that every decision we make honors the legacy of both communities while paving a way forward to a brighter future. Thank you all again for being here, your dedication, and the belief that we can achieve more together. Now we're going to get started. I'm going to turn it over to Bob.
Thank you, Mary. Just as a matter of housekeeping, exits, if we have to exit the gym, straight out the door and into the parking lot, so hopefully that won't be necessary, and the restrooms are down the hall to the left if you need them. As Mary said, I'm Bob Bridenstine, and I'm working with the Wynantskill and Troy systems as the lead facilitator. To my left is Brian Schmidt, and we have thoroughly enjoyed being in the district over the last several months, working with the faculty, staff, and community members. Part of what we're going to do tonight is a quick review of the first two meetings. I promise I won't spend a significant amount of time because you're going to hear some of those themes repeated again again today. We're going to transition to a conversation with Ed Anchor for facility and building planning conversation about opportunities and positive developments and needs within this building and also within the Troy system, historically speaking. And then we will have some Q&A questions, and I'll get to that in a moment. For those who are here for the facility conversation, and we're just sticking around for school choice, just a little spoiler alert that I will go over those questions again because they're relatively recent over the last 24 or 48 hours, so we want to make sure that that information gets out. So with that as a quick review, this is our third community focus forum. Tonight's topics are building condition surveys and school choice, two very important topics. In the first two meetings, we talked about facilities in a general sense, the tax impact for the communities, as well as the impact on staffing if a reorganization occurs, and school choice. During the course of that conversation in October and just yesterday, we talked about school building aid ratios. Wynantskill's building aid ratio is approximately 76%. Troy's capital project building aid ratio is slightly over 90% at 90.2%. And as part of the potential reorganization, there will be the opportunity for capital improvements to facilities, infrastructure, technology that is aided at 98%. So in essence, if you spend $1, you get 98 cents back if the reorganization is approved. And over the course of this 10-year process for capital project, that's the aid ratio that will follow the merged, reorganized system. We're going to talk more about that with Mr. Carmelo in a second. He's given me the hook that that's enough. And just as, I don't want to steal your thunder, so Bob's going to turn this over to John because it's going to be John's presentation.
Thank you, Bob. He started reading my slides, that's why I tapped him on the shoulder. Thank you, Bob. And so I'll start with the flyer that Bob just referenced. So that flyer went out a few weeks ago. It's been really well received. There's a lot of information on that. There's been a few updates, and there'll be a few more as more decisions are made. We'll send out the flyer with more and more details on it. But tonight, the first part of tonight, this part of the meeting, is facilities. First thing I'll say about facilities, and I've said it over and over again, is this building will stay open, right? This building will stay a neighborhood K-8 school. We've heard a lot of talk about the Gardner-Dickinson community. We've heard a lot of talk about this school and the local community around it, and they want to keep that intact, and that's our plan, right? That it's going to stay open, it's going to stay a K-8 school. I said in that first meeting, not only is that true, but we're also going to be able to do some great stuff, and so that's what this next 45 minutes or so will be. So there's where Bob started talking. So we have building aid ratio. I just want to talk about that a little bit. I've been kind of talking it at a surface level that maybe not understandable. So I want to try to, without getting too much in the weeds, talk a little bit more about it. So there's something called the building aid ratio. So when you do a capital project, and you did one here recently, districts get, depending on their demographics and their combined wealth ratio, you get a certain amount of percentages back. So Wynantskill right now gets about 76% back, which means they spend $1, they get 76 cents back on that dollar. Troy gets 90% back, right? And so when we do a capital project, and we've done a lot of them, and you'll see in a slide coming up, we've done them. This is my 13th year as superintendent, and we've done, you'll see, almost every year we have one going on. And the reason for that is the 90% building aid ratio, right? It ends up not costing the taxpayers anything because there's an extra piece. So let me just say what Bob said there. The district's consolidated. Besides the $241 million that we've been talking about and all the great things that we're going to be able to do for students and staff and the community at both districts with that $241 million, there's an aid ratio that increased to 98%. 98%. So that means now, for every dollar we spend, we're getting 98 cents back, right? So What happens is, thank you, just testing it out. Oh, nice job, work. Wait, go back. So the example is, right there is, if we spend $10 million on this building, right, we'll get $9.8 million of that back, right? Now, where does the other $200,000 come from? Well, that's what the local share is. So the way we've done it in Troy is we make sure before we sign on for a capital project that we've saved that local share, either in a capital reserve or we have money that we can do a capital transfer in that year's budget, right? So that's the budget, the bullet near the end there. Troy historically utilized either capital reserves or budget transfers for that local share, right? So if we're doing a $10 million project here, all the upgrades that would be, it's gonna cost this district $200,000, and we're gonna have $200,000 out of that $241 million. We're gonna have a lot of $200,000s, right? And so the last line is really huge there. We would likely, over that 10-year period, that 98% stays for 10 years. So over that 10-year period, we would likely have multiple capital project votes that would maximize the positive impact here at Gardner-Dickinson and in all of our schools in Troy, right? All of our current schools, right? We can do great, great work, again, at no extra cost to the taxpayers. Thank you. So there's our projects for the last 10 years or so. We had an IT security. That was a real important project. I won't go through all of these, but we needed technology upgrades, which I heard from Superintendent Yotis last night that is happening here. So back in 2013 in Troy, we really, really needed some technology upgrades. So much that we didn't have it in that current year's budget to make those changes. So we went out for a capital project, got instructional technologies in every building, and had upgrades for security and IT. And then going through the list, you see the big ones. We've totally upgraded School 16 and School 18, full upgrades where we pulled them out of the school, put them in a transition space, did the whole buildings over, put them back into almost really theoretically brand new buildings. We did that at middle school really down to the studs, and then built a whole new building. That's on there too. Right now, we are toward the end of the $56 million modernization project, which had a lot of parts to it. You see there, the vote was back in 2019. We had about 5 different phases of that project over school years and over summers. The School 16 and School 18 renovations are in there. School 12 is where our district office and our pre-K program are. We did some major upgrades there as well. And now we're on, if you've been to Troy High School, as you're facing Troy High School, to the right of it is a brand new full tech wing, 21st century state-of-the-art tech wing, going to be opened up this September actually. So really, really excited for that, excited for the options that that's going to bring a whole new space on our building. We also have new fields that we just put in. I think we have pictures of some of those. Am I hitting this now, Stan? You gave up? Yeah? I'm the wrong way. That's what we're waiting for. There's the current one. So we got the Troy High Tech Wing that we're currently doing. High school athletics, we did baseball and softball fields. We already have a turf football field. We're re-turfing that. We already did. We have great baseball and softball fields, all turf now. We had an issue, which I think, again, I heard Superintendent Jones talk about last night was a meeting with our fields. We had springs where we couldn't play baseball or softball on our fields because the water buildup, the puddles, all of that kind of stuff. So we finally were able to get turf fields for all of our baseball and softball fields in the back. We have a great athletic facility back there now with all of that. We did upgrades for all our elevators, boilers, secure vestibules, so safety and security, a big issue right now. So all of our buildings either have already or are now going to have, with that $46 million one, secure vestibules. When you come in the building and you're in a foyer and got to get buzzed in again, right? There's a monitor there making sure. Just a little added layer of security. That'll be now in all of our buildings. And then locker rooms, some site work, getting brand new concession stand, which we're excited about. The point for putting both of those 2 slides up, just to show you, we done this work over and over and over again, right? It's stuff that we know is important. It's great for kids. That's where we make all of our decisions are based on what's good for students, what's good for the programs, academics, athletics, and all of it. And because of our 90% building A ratio, we can get a lot done at little cost. Certainly a better. Going the wrong way. So there's the tech wing that I was talking about. It's actually even further along than that. That's probably 3 or 4 weeks old, that picture. But the end of that, Troy High School right there, that's right on Burdette, facing Burdette. So right to the right of that, what used to be a parking lot, will now be our new tech wing. And there's the fields I was talking about. Those look like renderings, but that's the fields. Troy High School football field, newly turfed, and then the baseball and softball fields I was talking about. At the end? At the end? Oh, that's the end. Screen should come down. So again, last night we talked about, we'll do a little recap later on last night, we talked about our taxes over the last 10 years. And the reason I wanted people to know that, people from Wynantskill, so that you can see, like, this is what we're about. We're about doing things for kids, we're about doing things for the staff, about doing things for the community, so that it's a better instructional program, it's a better overall program for our students in Troy, right? And we're excited to be able to bring that kind of idea, those kinds of things to this building, to this community, to this facility. I think I'm now turning it over to Ed, right? Bob?
Yeah, this will work. Or go where you want. This is Ed Anker, who is a parent, and Ed has been our architect for the 14 years that I've been here, from CS Arch to now for the Finney Group. And I think Ed taking over the superintendency was definitely a challenge, not knowing all of the building regulations and codes and upgrades, and Ed has been an amazing partner. So Ed has prepared, the building condition survey was done when I first got here. It's due to the state in 2026, but I had asked Ed to kind of do it a little sooner so that we could really get some real numbers to the next phase and what would be necessary for the next 5 years. So Ed's worked like crazy to get some information, but real information for tonight. So thank you, Ed, for everything.
No problem, thanks, Mary. So I walked in the door tonight and I realized that there's a plaque on the wall over at the Media Center. And it was the very first project that I worked on as an architect, working for CS Arch back in 1999, 2002. And I realized that that Media Center is now 23 years old, which makes me a lot older. It's kind of scary. But it's interesting, I wanted to point that out because I've been working in this particular school for going on 20-some years now. And you know, lo and behold, we ended up moving to the district. We sent our daughter here, she's in 8th grade right now, really excited to go to Troy. And it's been a long haul understanding the nuances of this building, challenges with updating this building and keeping it in tip-top shape for kids. That's always a challenge. Anything working in K-12 educational facilities all over the state of New York for the last 25 years. And it's really nice to be able to work on buildings that are right here in the backyard for your kids to go to school. So what we did tonight, and Mary alluded to it a little bit, I want to show you some of the things that we haven't been able to accomplish with the project because of the funding streams. It's about the ability to pay for these things. You know, it puts districts in a position where sometimes you got to limp along a little bit and just make do with what you got. We had been fortunate to put the pre-K wing on, which was paid for with aid and great tax district 2 years ago. That was to increase student spaces and enhance student spaces. We did the stage proscenium here on this gymnasium. But certain things just become cost prohibitive and grants to the project. We'll talk about a little bit of a few of those things. We Mary alluded to the building condition survey. So every 5 years, every school district in the state has to do a building condition survey. They have to hire a licensed professional. In this case, we have the last lot of sidewalk work during the last capital project. We just didn't have enough to tear all off the walls. We fixed the worst stuff. There's still cracking in the sidewalks. There's still issues at the steps. This is a bit of a tripping hazard here, which is why the phone is here. Throughout the building, as we all know, in a lot of old school buildings, there's a ton of hazardous material. It's not friable, it's not hurting anybody in its current state. But when we do capital projects, we have the ability to take that on. That's one of the very first things that we look at is what types of things can we abate out of the building, get it out of the building for good. Unfortunately, that's very, very, very expensive. You end up having to do abatement in the path of construction, usually not a whole lot more. So with the type of money that we're talking about, merger potential, all that goes away, right? There's enough money to take all the hazardous material, all the spaces out of the building. This is just a typical floor. This is PAP, asbestos tile, in the classrooms. About 2/3 of the classrooms in the building right now still have this type of floor. You can see the degradation there. This is actually a picture down in the crawl space. This is blue tape and blank. This is actually a barrier that we put into construction because everything beyond that hole right there, all that pipe insulation right there is all hazardous material. It's all asbestos contaminated. Now, it's stable. It's not hurting anybody in its current state, but they're going to quickly get to the point where the piping that is wrapping around is going to need to be replaced, which will now pretty significant maintenance on. That's in the crawl spaces. Most of this building has crawl spaces. The last one here, and again, during capital projects, during a capital project, one of the other things that we like to do is take a look at aesthetically what we can upgrade the space so the kids have pride in the building. We hear a lot about pink wall tile. So we actually priced that up a few years ago to do that project, and we'll show you the numbers in a minute, but it's very expensive to get rid of pink wall tile. Now, I will say that this picture right here, thankfully, we have the money left over from the last capital project that's wrapping up. And that door right there is going to be fixed in short order. You're finally ordered the door, and that's not but these are the types of things that happen over time that we just don't have the money and resources to be able to pay for all the time. These bleachers that you're looking at right here, that one I don't think we try and pull out too much, right, Rocco? They were installed when they were new, but now they're 25 years old. We replaced them, just don't function the way they should. Talking to the mic, sorry, that a lot. And then, obviously the wall panels on the wall here, all this stuff on here is kind of flaking and falling off. Eventually, that all has to be fixed, and that's definitely the time period. All right, so the building condition survey is about a 60-page long document. It highlights, we go through every space in the building, all the facilities from the outside to the inside, to the plumbing systems, to the cabinet systems, and we do an evaluation on all of them. Put a date on how long it's going to take when we have to start thinking about replacing that. Now we've done a lot of that work, which is great. Like a lot of mechanical systems and all this stuff. We just put air conditioning in all the classrooms, and that's fantastic. But there's a lot of places that things need to be updated or are nearing the end of the useful life of previous capital projects. So what you see up here, I'm not going to go through every single one of these, but essentially what we do is we go through the inside and outside, site utility features, building interior. We talk about, these are the items on the building condition survey that are either unsatisfactory or are pretty close to a critical failure, right? These are items that are going to need to be addressed within the next 4 to 5 years, and it just needs to get done. So there are things like completion of the equipment. Because those don't function really well, and they're kind of broken, frankly, that constitutes a critical failure. Replacing the bleachers in the interior equipment, backstops and backboards, whatnot, significant amount of money. It's $225,000 alone. Now, anybody who's dropped off their kids in the parent loop here and came in the parking lot in the wintertime and hit that pothole right in the turn there, knows that the paving and whatnot around the site here really needs to be replaced in its entirety, right? It's all past its useful life, it's falling, it's cracking. The paving doesn't repair itself, right? So that number right now, we did an evaluation based on square footage cost. You're talking about almost $2 million just to do the paving on site, right? And these are not the sexy things that people, see. It's a pothole they drop the kids off. Just get going. Mary gets a phone call. Rocco gets a nasty letter. So, HVAC systems, HVAC systems, plumbing, the kitchen equipment. We toured that again with L'Oreal a couple days last week, I believe. It all needs to be replaced, right? Their ability to deliver healthy meals to our kids in the school is being hampered by the equipment in that kitchen, right? The refrigerator doesn't work, walking blues on its left side, the stove and whatnot is terrible, the floor is falling apart. It needs about renovation. It hasn't been done in forever. Electrical systems, there's some things there that could use upgrades. So all total, looking at the numbers, there's about almost $5.5 million worth of stuff that isn't an option, right? That's just the stuff that has to get done in the next 4 to 5 years. Some of it, again, like asbestos abatement, that's currently not hazardous, it's stable in its current condition, it doesn't have to be done. But if you have the ability to do it, you've always want to do it, right? Get it out of the way. It's not a problem for future generations. So, going back to aid ratio, and I apologize, that's incorrect, that should be 76. That's my bad. Yeah, about 1.3 in standard building aid ratio work. That's numbers. That's the district's share of the work in this building cost. At 98% aid ratio, it's $108,000. John will write a check for that, right? So no, you can see, but with the merger aid, it's really an unprecedented opportunity to take care of all the things that have to get taken care of, but also start to look at some of the things that we could do in addition to the basics. So, this existing gymnasium, we've all seen this floor, you know, it bubbles over there in springtime, it bubbles over there in fall, and it's really kind of in an unsafe condition a lot of the time. This floor is an original floor, and the reason why we haven't replaced this floor yet is because it's stuck down into the concrete underneath it with hazardous material, asbestos mastic, right? So doing this floor is a capital project that is very, very expensive. You're talking almost $500,000 just to take this floor out of here. Under the guise of a merger and that amount of money, this is infinitely doable, and it should be done. Bleachers, and we forget some images of things that could possibly be here. This is what things we can potentially accomplish with the kind of aid that we're talking about. A new three-station gymnasium, possibly even an indoor walking track around the top of it. New natural light looking out into the hills here. Lots of ways and financially accomplishable ways to take on some of these projects. This is it's a little hard to see in the diagram, but this is kind of a pretty standard what we call three-station gymnasium. This is essentially a one-station gymnasium. You can play basketball, you can play volleyball, tie volleyball on the wall to play. But you can only do one activity at a time. Yes, you can pull the curtain down the center, but there's not full court basketball. This configuration, which we've installed, I've installed at least a dozen times, this has a main station gymnasium that's regulation play. It also has 2 other courts in the opposite direction. When you're not playing on the main court, you can play on the side courts, and you can have 2 volleyball games, you can have 2 basketball games, you can have 2 pickleball games. And you can straighten and set the courts so that it can all happen. There's enough property going on that wall right there to double the size of the gymnasium here, which does a couple of things. It alleviates the issues with practices after school, where kids can't be in here playing at the same time. There's just too many people in not enough room. It helps during competitions because you can have full-on regional competitions, sporting competitions here. You've got 2 ability to play the game at the same time. Takes the pressure off of after-school activities, so kids can come, practice, and go, right? Not wait for work or wait to play outside. When it's inclement outside, now you've got a much bigger space for kids to play inside. So it's not just for the game day; it's for the everyday. So the other, challenge is the cafeteria right now. It's a little bleak, right? Definitely some more natural light. The fold-out table and the walls that you see right there. I think Bronco takes his life in his hands every day when he pulls those things out, because a couple of them still have hydraulics in them, but a few don't, and they're big finger pinchers. So it's an opportunity to upgrade some of that equipment. Here's some images, things that we've seen that we've done. A lot more natural light, appropriate places for kids to eat and gather, different types of tables and seats around the room, graphics and fun stuff on the walls, extra light. Lots and lots and lots of options there. I want to make it also very clear that we haven't really programmed any of this stuff yet. These are just ideas, right? But all these ideas are affordable under the guise of merger. So this is the media center I was talking about before. Pride jewel of 2002 when I first started this. It's dated, it needs help, right? We still have countertops in here that were designed to hold CRTs, right? We don't use them. but it's all still there. There's stacks and stacks and stacks of books. They're all very tall. With an expanded media center or the increased size of the media center, those stacks get lower so that the administrators can see the kids in the room. They can help them better. They're not hiding behind the stacks, right? It gives them more spaces for multi-purpose activities, which, you know, media centers are do a lot. You guys all know there's a lot going on there on a basis. So here's some ideas of things that can happen, right? Up to the media centers. Stacks that are more accessible to the students. Double-height spaces to be much more natural lighted that come through multi-purpose spaces. There's opportunities to create more connection between upper and lower levels. So maybe that media center is accessible just as easily from downstairs to the upstairs. For that elementary school kids. And then one of the things that you see here a lot of is STEAM curriculum, right? Science, technology, engineering, art, and math. Right? There's really no space in the building to accomplish that right now in a meaningful and really educational appropriate way based on the current curriculum standards for those type of programs. We potentially have the ability to do an addition to accommodate these programs for the middle school students, for all the elementary schools down in those spaces. We're talking about things like robotics labs, 3D printers, the technology associated with that, but also the CTE programs, right? We've talked a lot about career technical education school. We're not actually doing a whole lot of career technical education programs, right? My daughter laments that every day. Like, I really like to, you know, play around in a wood shop, right? Those type of things. Learn what the trades are about. And this would be an opportunity to be able to accomplish that. John's building a whole building just all right, in our fields, our illustrious fields, right? So the softball field, baseball field right here. This is one of those items that we would consider kind of critical failure, right? It's just not safe to play on. Balls are popping up off the ground, catching kids in the face. They're using it for practice, but it's just not safe. I know a couple years ago, Rockwood made a valiant effort to try and skin the infield and keep that, but it's very difficult to maintain it when it really is just grass. Not enough dirt, not enough subbase, not enough drainage. And then our soccer field, you know, as long as you're the team running downhill, it's fine, right? That's just when you flip side, you got to run back up the hill. That's the problem. But things like fields get fixed in a capital project like this, right? You put in potentially a turf field that can do soccer, that can do baseball, or basketball, football. You know, we talk about things like maybe there's a tennis center or a series of tennis courts that live here. You know, the sports merger, my daughter's playing tennis for Troy now, which is pretty awesome. Always wanted to play tennis, and now she's doing it. So, but having the ability to break those practices up, as anybody who's been over to Troy has seen, the tennis courts are probably in the worst possible spot on that site. It's Grand Central Terminal over there, and lots of stuff going on. Those tennis courts are really right in the middle of it. So maybe there's an opportunity to put some tennis courts over on this side of the district. Tennis too. That's really all time. Yeah, very high level. You know, we're not promising anything right now. Programmed any of this. There's going to be a lot more opportunities for people to give feedback on things that they want to see, that they'd like to see, and really with a really kind of once in a generation opportunity to put an influx of financial resources into the building, the district. It's beneficial for our entire community. So, thank you.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is we're going to transition, and if any individuals have any comments or questions related to facilities, we'd be happy to entertain those. We do have just kind of an opening request when we do questions. There's a lot of folks here tonight. We want to get to all the facility questions or plant or operation questions regarding this campus or what your thoughts are on the future or the hope for the facility structures here. We'd ask that you kind of get to those questions so that we can get as many as possible, or your comments. Brian and I will always be available for either individual questions. If individuals do not feel comfortable asking a question in a large forum, we certainly recognize that not everyone is comfortable talking in front of folks. On the flyers that are up here on the front is a dedicated email address, Troy, WUFSD, feasibility@gmail.com. Brian and I are the only ones that see those actual questions, and then we make sure that the question itself gets to the correct corresponding person who can give us the best answer, or we undertake the task to get the information and answer that question. And we have said this before, and we'll continue to say it, that both districts have a need to know what's on the minds of the community, but they do not need to know who is asking that question. So Brian and I keep that information very confidential. We do not discuss it. And the questions that have come in so far to date have been very thoughtful, very productive questions that are coming from a truly good place. I think the important part is we should not assume that the question has already been asked. Last night at the meeting where we discussed the tax impacts, the gentleman asked a question about absentee ballots. That's the first time that the absentee ballot question has been asked publicly. We're aware of the process, and there were process questions about what happens after the report gets put in, but it's important that everyone ask the question, even if we have maybe heard it multiple times. There is also the equal chance that we've not ever heard that question yet. So if any individual has a question or a comment about facilities, we would love to have it. We just ask so that we can record it and post it, that we actually use a microphone. We can either bring it to you, or you're welcome to come up to the microphone at the front of the building. So with that, I'll turn it over to anyone with a question or a comment. How about I come to you?
I just had a question. Why is Gardner Dickinson going to stay in the K-8 building when every other elementary building in the Troy district does not go through 8th grade? Why will we maintain that 8th grade here? How do we know we will? You know, basically.
The simple answer of that is, early on in this process, that's what we heard this community wanted. So that's the answer.
How do we know that that will remain?
Yeah, we have K-5 buildings, our 5 elementary buildings are K-5, and we have a 6-8 middle school, but we are willing to have a K-8 building on this side of the district, as Eric had put it. I like that, how he said that. Yeah, I mean, it's really just because that's what the community asked for. It asked for it to stay intact, that this community school stay a neighborhood school, or this school stay a neighborhood school, and stay K-8, so we will make that work. And we're committed to that.
Hi. I was on a group about 10 years ago who looked at merging. We were told that there are only 29 kindergartners. Our taxes would have to go up 8%. There was no way around it. 9% the year after that, we were going to be broke. We made recommendations based on that after meeting for months. We met for months. We talked to people, we looked at things. And then, when our recommendations were made, we went into a meeting. Mrs. Yodas, I think this is how you ended up being here. This is before you were hired, I think. We went into a meeting, and they had a happy story. We're in great shape. We've got 29 kindergartners. We don't need to worry about anything. There won't be an 8% rate increase. There will only be a 2% increase, if that, 1% increase. They did not tell us the truth that what I want to know is sometime before that, there was another merger of a big school with a little school. Averill Park merged with George Washington. And that was something we were really worried about when we looked at this those years ago. Because for the 14 or 15 years that the money held out, George Washington stayed open and Averill Park added programs. When the money ran out, there was no more leverage for George Washington. They were a small school up against a big school. Small population, big population. The district voted to close George Washington School. How Would that not happen here? What lessons have you learned from what happened with Averill Park? What lessons have you taken to heart? And what guarantees do you have in place that the moment, because the second we merge, we do not have one bit of leverage anymore. What do we have, 300 kids? How many families? How are we gonna outvote Troy? Troy says, why do they get to have a K-8? And suddenly we don't. I'm so sorry, but I'd love to hear a good answer. But I need to hear what lessons you've learned and what protections would be in place for Gardner Dickinson. And also, I mean, I'm sorry, some of these things that are being told that are needed, these pink tiles have been here since I was here. We've lived. Do you know what I mean? We survived. I ran on those fields. These are pretty pictures. They really are. They're pretty. But if we lose our community school, is it worth it for some windows? I don't think so. I want to know what it is that would guarantee that somehow Gardner Dickinson and the Wynantskill community could outvote Troy when the money runs out, or even sooner.
Thank you for the question. I'll try to remember all the questions that are in that question. First of all, the lessons I learned, I wasn't part of that, right? That was Averill Park School District. I can't speak for them at all. I do know, because it also happened in North Colony. North Colony merged with Maplewood and actually closed Maplewood quicker actually than Averill Park closed George Washington. What I would say is those were a little while ago, and the incentive aid that was involved in those, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but it's certainly public information you can look up, it was not a lot of money. I believe the North Colony and Maplewood one, like $17 to $25 million. That's not game-changing money. 17 to 25 million over 14 years, just like you said, right? We're talking about $1.5 million, $2 million a year, and Averill Parks with George Washington was similar money. We're talking about $241 million, right? They've made the incentive aid such that not only can we do all these great things, and yet the pink tiles, yeah, you can live with those. You can live with the grass fields that have divots in them. Your students don't want to live with those anymore. That's what they told the optimization study people. I read that thing multiple times. The students spoke loud and clear. They want the gym floor to be better. They want more programs. They want more opportunities, right? The students want that. People that went here 20 years ago might not want it. The students do want it, and we're going to be able to deliver that. I have said that we are going to keep this building open. I've said we're going to keep it K-8. You don't know me, so maybe you're shaking your head. Maybe you think I'm lying. I'm not lying. The people that are here from Troy know I make promises, and I deliver on every single one of those promises. We're going to keep this building open, and not only are we going to keep it open, we're going to make it a great, great place that your students can thrive in and not complain about when outside consultants come to see you. I can't tell you any more than that. I did say at the joint meeting last week, and a couple of our board members are here tonight, thank you for being here. We are going to take that flyer once we get more details on it, and they're going to approve that flyer as a board resolution. It's just a show of solidarity, it's a show of support. On that flyer, it says right on there, we're keeping the building open and we're going to keep it K-8, and our Board of Ed is going to approve that as a board resolution. We're getting an MOA together with the staff to give them the things that they're asking for. We're making promises, and I'm telling you, we're going to deliver on every single one of them.
What will you put in writing?
It's in writing.
Yeah.
Here, there's a flyer right here. There's a flyer right there. It's in writing. It's going to be a board resolution. Me signing it as a superintendent gives no power. It's the Board of Ed that's going to pass that as a resolution that says that they approve that.
Hi, good evening. So I'm going to piggyback off of what these two just said, and I was at your meeting last week, and I stood up and I asked the question. Actually, I told you that us Wynantskill community members know that our enrollment rate drops at middle school. And your response to that was, well, if we only have 3 or 4 kids in the middle school, then I have no choice but to merge it. So now tonight, you're giving us a different response.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked that question because I did say that. And my people the next day said, hey, you probably shouldn't even have left that door open because there's not going to be 3 8th graders in the middle school. But you changed it on your Facebook to, there's no guarantee it'll stay open because the superintendent said if the enrollment is low, then I'm closing the middle school. That's a little disingenuous because I was given an outrageously low number intentionally to make it the point that I'm not going to close it. Right? I said 3 students. I said, if you end up with 3 8th graders here, I don't know if anyone in this place would say, keep it open if there's 3 8th graders. I should not have used that as an example. That's the mistake. You're not going to get down to 3. I did never say, if it gets low, then we're going to close it. We're not closing it. It's right on the city. I don't have to keep saying it, I don't think. I'm telling you, it's going to be open and it's going to be a K.
They're going to look at their grade schools.
How many kids in a classroom?
No,
And
our
they're
class
gonna let
sizes-
that happen?
No, our class sizes are super, super low. Our class sizes are lower. Our class sizes are lower than the class sizes over here. We thrive on our low class sizes. We brag about it. I thank our board members every time we're in budget season. And with $241 million, we're going to have low class sizes throughout the district. Our Troy community trusts what we're doing because we're doing great things for kids every single day. Our last 5 budgets have approved 85, 86, 87, 88%. Our Troy community trusts what we're doing, and I'm not going to take things away from the Troy community to help this. We're going to have $241 million. This building's going to benefit, and the students here, and every Troy school and the students in those schools are going to benefit.
Hi, my question is, what will happen if the merger does not go through, and what happens to Gardner Dickinson?
Okay, that's Bob's answer. Thank you.
I can answer that, so give me 3 seconds here. So one of the challenges that Brian and I face when we're asked questions to give factual, truthful, unbiased answers without coming across heavy-handed. So we try to respond to those questions diplomatically, gracefully, but some of the residents have reached out to us to say, Bob, just tell it to us straight. So that's a great question. So first off, one of the things, and I have some notes here based on our research over the last couple of days. So trying to balance facts and opinion without coming across too heavy-handed is something we'll try to wrestle with. So I'll try to balance those two, but based on reasonable financial projections. We've been talking about this since the optimization study last year. Mary and her leadership team and her financial planners have been wrestling with the financial implications for a long time. Most school districts have. So if the vote is defeated, if it gets to that point through the petition process and through the referendums, there are several layers which would likely to occur almost immediately. Some impacts which would take a little bit longer to manifest, and others are predicted expectations of concern. So we listed several of them today in our conversations, in our meetings, and I want to go over a few of those. Immediate impacts: the budget for fiscal year 26-27 would need to reflect substantial strain and changes on what the district can spend the money on. The only way you're going to close budget gaps that large, and we talked about them last night, where the budget gap within the next 4 years will be just under $2 million. That's not our money, and that's not our number. That's from the financial planners who do this full-time every day. So by 2030, This community is looking at a $2 million, just under budget deficit. The only way you get to that is by reducing programs to the point of eliminating them or cutting staff. That is something that the entire community through the optimization study said, we do not want that. The only way you get there is by cutting programs and staff. So that would be an immediate impact on any non-mandated position that isn't required by state law or statute or board policy. Some of those positions are critical to operations, like a school resource officer. Critical, absolutely necessary. I don't know of any district that would intentionally do that, but you can't be physically, financially insolvent as a school district. Pre-kindergarten is not mandated. If you take the money, it's capped at 18 students, which is pretty close to the number that we have currently, 18 students, but it's not mandated. The other element, which is shocking, and this is perhaps a legislative kerfuffle, the school nurses are not mandated in public schools. Today, there was a medical episode. That happens in every school district. I don't know of any district or community that would tolerate that, but if it comes between remaining open, being fiscally solvent, those are non-mandated, and those would be put immediately at risk, as well as other instructional supports that staff depend upon to meet programmatic needs. And when it becomes a choice of fiscal insolvency and you cut so deep, then you start getting into a little bit more moderate impact of instructional insolvency. The quality of programs, technology. Mary spoke extensively last night about the need to upgrade technology and that there are no resources to upgrade technology. You can get away with that for a little bit. This is Bob speaking as a 40-year educator, but when students aren't exposed to the current instructional technologies, they become less and less skilled to meet the demands when they get older and graduate from high school. The other issue for 26, 27, and this is where I'm just going to speak plainly as Bob. This building is sacred from the optimization study. They want this building open, and John and Mary have spoken about the need to continue to do that. So I think we can safely say that they're willing to invest in this building. The other thing that was sacred was the faculty and staff, and we don't want to get into instructional insolvency and fiscal insolvency where our Wynantskill family members who are on staff are in jeopardy. The last part to it, which would be immediate in 26, 27, would be school choice. Last night we heard school choice costs the taxpayers $1.2 to $1.7 million annually, and that is in grave jeopardy starting in June, July of 26, if it goes down. Longer term, we've heard facility issues being at risk for improvements that create safety issues create lawsuits, lawsuits drain resources. Those are real things that will over time need to be addressed, that the district is in a very challenging position to address any additional capital improvements. And the last thing, which is a little bit longer term, not immediately, but when a district is struggling with fiscal solvency and instructional solvency, that over time has a direct impact on property values. That came up multiple times in the conversations, and I can only give you anecdotal information. There is no hardcore evidence that property taxes will be negatively impacted from a merger or a reorganization, but there is absolute evidence when a district is unable to meet its financial and instructional burdens that has a negative impact on property tax values. The last thing I will tell you is when that continues year after year, it is a substantial and significant issue of staff recruitment and retention. When we did the optimization study last year, Dr. Yotis pulled rabbits out of her hat, made magic happen to fill staffing positions, and currently there is no 6th grade elementary teacher. It's a teacher that's dual certified 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. If that can't be filled because staff does not come to a district that has fiscal and instructional issues, for solvency, that becomes a significant negative draw on recruitment and retention of staff. That's very substantial. So all of those issues will start to manifest in some capacity beginning as early as June and July of 26-27 school year. And that's why Mary and the board has to have a plan by April for next fiscal year, whether or not this goes through. Impact on taxes.
Just to be transparent, the impact on taxes is to be determined. We reported last night that Rick Timms, our fiscal advisor, stated that we would need a minimum baseline of 6.4% for the next years to continue to grow forward. The challenge that comes with that is just to sustain the current staff and the status quo. If rainy days come, when they do typically come in buildings of this age, and when things happen, as far as special education students possibly moving into the district, additional challenges that come from the structures, then that number can change. So what we want to be really transparent about is that the 6.4% tax levy increase, that would more than likely be just the minimum to balance the budget and sustain status quo. It also will have a long-term negative impact on the reserves. And because the district is consistently putting reserve money in to balance the budget, by the year 2030, those reserves will run out.
Facility, yeah.
Thank you. My name is Marco. I have a student that goes here. I'm a Troy High alumni. Just one quick question. If the student population would drop, would you look at relocating the East End children to this school? In other words, I don't know if you're familiar with, this used to be East Troy before we got our own zip code way back when. In Albia, that area, you go down the bottom of East Ave, straight across the street, that's a Troy district. Those students actually, they live a lot closer to here than they would be other schools. So would that be an option that we would look at if our student population dropped?
I mean, we haven't gotten any kind of details like that. I appreciate the question. Again, if we're talking about the extreme cases where it got so low, like we talked about at last week's meeting, I mean, I think we would look at that. But I mean, we haven't even talked about that at all. It's a decent idea. It's worth looking at.
Hi, I want to thank Ed for the presentation you made. And certainly we would not need all those wonderful things that you showed us, but having been on board and been part of the last two capital projects, you learn quickly that you think you can get a lot more into a capital project than you actually can, because there's cost overruns here and here. You plan on fixing floors, you plan on fixing fields, and it just doesn't get done. Is there a limit on how much you can put forward in a capital project at one time? I mean, if we wanted to get as much done, especially the safety things first, is there a limit by the state or by whoever to...
Yes, there's a limit. I'll give it a shot, Ed, and then you can jump in, all right? Because Adam's taught me a lot, Mr. Ovington. Yes, there's a limit. There's something called the maximum cost allowance, which is based on student population and the size of the building and all of that. So we can't come here the first year and do a $100 million project, right? Money-wise, with the aid ratio, we could figure that district-wide we could do a huge project like that, right? But in each building, there's a limit based on that maximum cost allowance and based on what projects you've done. So you just did one, roofs and things, right? So they recalculate it every 5 years, I believe. Rolling 5 years. All right, Ed wants to take it. He's the expert.
Yes, great question, Kathy. And that you're exactly right. You're not going to be able to do a $100 million project all at once. The maximum cost allowance at the same time when basically this merger will essentially go into effect, it's about $14 million. And every 5 years, you can do a $14 million project. So over the next 5, 10, 15 years, with money that would be available potentially for the merger, it's very significant. So, and I want to reinforce the fact that the things I'm showing up here are not pie in the sky with that kind of money, because the resources are pretty significant. You would have to phase those things. Again, that planning process is a long and very community-focused and feedback-focused method to get to what we want to do and prioritize what things are most important. But what I guess baseline is that $5.4 million chunk of money that isn't really an option gets taken care of right out of the gates at a very, very low gate ratio. And our debt is, I think the debt service that we currently have on the previous capital project gets refigured at the lower gate ratio. So, which is what?
Yeah, you have to get the project approved. No, you can get 3 because you don't have to finish the project in that 10 years. You just have to get it voted on and started. So we can do 1 right away, get some of that stuff done and a few other things, 14 million worth, then 1 at year 6, and then 1 more vote at year 10. So you really can get 3 times the 14 million.
Diamond, Wynantskill School District resident. I have 3 questions, all 3 for Superintendent Carmella. So the first one, just clarifying what I heard last night and then today and what I read. It sounds like you're projecting a 5-year plan, and I think that you had said last night that you really don't go out any more than 5 years with the planning. So with that, means that when you talk about the K-8 building remaining, is that essentially a 5-year plan?
No, absolutely not. So the 5-year plan that I talked about last night and actually talked about last week as well is the tax plan, right? There's such separate plans on that page. The tax plan was last night. It was a great meeting. You should watch the video of that because there was a really lot of information. We are going to recap it when we start our next session in a little bit. But the tax plan is 5 years. And I did say last night, we're comfortable that we probably, remember that tax plan is a 5% reduction the first year and then 4 straight zeros. We'll show in our recap the average Wynantskill taxpayer in that 5th year is going to save $1,800 just in that year for a $6,000 savings over that 5-year period. We're confident that that zero probably can go 6, 7, 8 years. But what I said is I don't like to do tax plans that go longer than 5. Nobody knew COVID was coming. Nobody knew crashes were coming in 2009, right? You can't predict the economy and tax stuff outside of 6, 7, 8 years. The other stuff on that sheet is not under that same 5-year plan. That's just for the taxes.
Because I think that for the most part, people would be more understanding, having an idea up front, how long that it could possibly last for, as opposed to just saying it'll last forever. Because realistically...
How long, what, the taxes?
No, the building staying K-8.
Well, it is forever to me. I mean, it's just like asking me, is School 16 going to stay open K-5? Yeah, I mean, we have no plans. We have 5 elementary schools, a middle school and a high school, and an alternative program. I have no plans on closing any of those or changing any of their grade levels. Those are forever. This one will now be, if this goes through and the vote is yes, this would be one of our schools. It would still be a community school. You'd still have your same PTA, you still have your same staff, you still have your same principal. Everything would be the same. I have no intentions of putting a time limit on it because it'd be like asking me if I'm closing School 18 or if I'm going to change the grade levels in School 18. This is going to be a K-8 building. I don't have a timeline on it because there is no timeline.
So I have 2 other questions about facilities for you.
Sure.
Can you describe your community use of the property, school property policy, and how
So I think it's probably similar to most districts. Our business office takes care of that, right? There's a building use form, and people that want to use the facilities can use them. Our Pop Warner uses our fields. There's some Little League teams that use them sometimes in the spring. If you're talking about athletic fields, there are people that make requests to come and use the building. I just had a person that I took around was doing a wellness fair in March, and she needed to have our gym and our cafeteria and some rooms. So they fill out the building use form as long as it's appropriate use. Sometimes there's a fee, sometimes it's not. I don't think it's any different than other schools.
And then can you describe your facilities, your leadership, I guess, in facilities, and how you provide maintenance to the buildings? And I asked this specifically right up the roof, because the roof that we had to replace the roof, and the roof was under warranty, but the warranty, my understanding is was said publicly, that the warranty wasn't managed. So therefore, the taxpayers had to pay the full amount of the roof at the process that you have described, the 76%.
Control what you're talking about?
So I'm curious.
You want to explain that?
I'm curious what your facilities team looks like and what they provide.
We have a guy named Rocco, and he does everything himself. Oh, no, that's here. We have a full team. I mean, I don't have the list in front of me. Mr. Hoteling, I think I said it in Embarrassment last week. He's the best assistant superintendent for business in the area. He heads that section of our stuff. We have a man named Jeremy Jasper, who's our director. We have an assistant director. We have 6 or 7 or 8 maintenance guys, 10 maintenance guys, I'm saying. We got laborers, custodians. I mean, we're a big district, level 2. Right? We have a full staff of people who are fixing things, minor things that you're saying, that door that you say you can't afford to fix, we would fix that door tomorrow with our people. Right? We have a full team of people that would do that. Aside from the 98% building ratio when you're doing a capital project to fix big things. Right? We have a full staff of people that fix stuff every single day in our buildings. Adam, anything to add on that? They do work very hard and do a great job. I'll let them know. Thank you for those questions. I think we're probably looking to switch to the next session.
So, let me just regroup here. Do we have the clicker changer? Where did that go to? Okay. So, all right, so we'll pull up the other side. So what we're going to do now is we're going to transition, and while Kyle's getting set up, we're going to transition to a conversation about school choice. But while Kyle is doing that, I do want to acknowledge a couple of other questions that are pretty straightforward. When are the next meetings? There's a meeting on November 10th at 1 p.m. at the Wynantskill Senior Center. Mr. Carmelo and Dr. Yotis are going to present and interact and meet with the seniors. There's a meeting on December 4th at Quest Arbosi's, and then 12/17 and December 2nd, thank you. December 2nd at Quest Arbosi's, and on December 17th at the Troy Board of Education meeting, and December 18th at the Wynantskill Board of Education meeting. There was a question that came up about limitations. We talked about impacts on class sizes. Is there a limit to potential increases in class sizes? And generally speaking, no. There are no limitations to class sizes. That's a local decision. 30 first graders could be one section of first grade or 2 sections of 15. There are exceptions to that with special ed and pre-K programs that have numbers that are mandated by regulation, law, and local policy. We also talked, as I said, about the impact on the budget vote, and as soon as Kyle tells me we're ready, we're ready. Okay. So, just very quickly as we go through this, and I'm going to see if I can, there we go. So we talked about the tax impact. John has given an overview that if the reorganization occurs, it will be a 5% property tax reduction starting in the 27-28 school year, and then followed by 4 successive zeros, and then an annual conversation about how long that can be extended based on the expenses and the state aid and the reorganization aid of how that's used. I think John's reflection over a 10-year period that he presented last night is a strong indication and evidence of the Troy commitment to keeping taxes low while it's supporting programs. The other secondary part to this that we had talked about is the facilities. I won't go into that too much in detail, but both John and Mary have made notation, and it did come up in a conversation that if this reorganization occurs, all staff will remain whole and consistent. There was one previous conversation about whether or not Dr. Yotis will still be the superintendent. I explained last evening that by statute law, a district can only have one superintendent. That would be Mr. Carmelo in the reorganization based on how the statutes work. Dr. Yotis, as Mr. Carmelo had said, remains on staff in a capacity aligned with certification, her credentials, and her abilities. And I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Carmelo and Dr. Yotis in a second. How about I do that right now?
We can certainly go back and forth on it too. So this is just a kind of a recap of last night. I see some of the same people, but also I see some new folks. So this will be quicker, obviously, but it does lead us into school choice. So I think it's important that people know that there was no single local decision that caused the financial difficulties that Wynantskill is facing, right? We talked a lot about that last night. I actually added that next line. Credit should be given to Superintendent Yotis and the Wynantskill School Board for recognizing that something has to be done, right? There was some talk yesterday. I know Mary's facing a lot of heat, a lot of anger, a lot of upset people, but she's the one that brought this to light. She's the one that's saying we have to make a decision here, and she knows, and the board knows, this is an emotional decision. People are going to be upset. She could have just wrote it out, right, and just kept doing the things she was doing, but she's looking ahead and trying to make a decision to save this place. And I did say last night, and I think it's important to say again, she was the only one in the beginning of her bringing this up that really had anything to lose, right? She knows what Bob just said, that there can only be one superintendent in this district, right? And it's really a merger/annexation, so that I'm going to be the superintendent of the Troy School District as long as the school board will keep having me. And they actually just gave me an extension, so I think I'm good for a little while. Mary embarked on this not knowing what her future would be like. She embarked on it because it's the right thing for the school district here in Wynantskill. It's the right thing for the students here, it's the right thing for the community, and it's the right thing for the staff. And she did it with uncertainty of what that would mean to her. Now, we've already had an agreement, we're talking about it, and like Bob said, she will have a job, and it'll be a job that fits her skill set and one that she wants, and we'll work together and figure out what that is if this thing goes through. But the Superintendent Yotis and the board should get a lot more credit for taking this on than they're getting. For every school district, there's two main sources of revenue, right? There's the tax levy, where you get money from the taxpayers, and there's foundation aid. Foundation aid is tied to enrollment, right? We did a lot of talk last night about the enrollment decrease, and it was just mentioned again. The enrollment decrease here ends up meaning your foundation aid starts to go down. You don't get as much each year. You certainly don't get as a big increase each year. And the governor has talked about school districts that are safe harmless not getting any increase, and that's what's going on here in Wynantskill, right? So tax levy is a certain amount. There's a tax cap that's involved there. So unless you're going to go over the tax cap and require a supermajority, which is very hard to do, you stay at the tax cap, which Mary said last night, you've done every year, right, over that tax cap number. So that tax number and the foundation number make your revenues. Here in Wynantskill, those don't match the expenses. right? I made an analogy last night. It'd be like your own personal finances where you have a car payment and a mortgage payment, but your income that you're bringing in is less than those two things. Well, how do you pay your mortgage and your car payment then? You use savings account. Well, eventually your savings account runs out. That's what's happened here at Wynantskill, right? They balanced the budget, as Bob said recently. You've balanced the budget with your reserves, which is the school district savings account, because your tax income, your tax revenues, and your foundation aid are falling short. No fault of anyone, right? There's a tax cap, and the taxpayers have to be willing to accept some kind of increase in taxes, and then the foundation aid comes from the state. We have no say on how much that is. So we're at a crossroads, right? You've utilized the full tax cap. You've already made so many cuts to staff and programs. I mean, she was talking last night about the true bare bones of what is happening here. She was talking about not being able to get rugs in a classroom that needed a rug for the reading program. That's never would cross our mind. We left that meeting and Mr. Stiles, our deputy superintendent, said, today, which was yesterday, I ordered 3 rugs for Sabina Donardo for her school because she called and said, hey, our rugs are getting old. It's a different world you can be in with the money that the $241 million would. You don't have to wish you had rugs. You don't have to wish you had a second music teacher so you could have orchestra and band. You don't have to wish that you had more accelerated programs. You don't have to wish you had better CTE programs or better technology. We'll do that. I was talking to a few of the teachers a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about kindergarten classes. I can't remember what the class size was. But they said, what would you do? And I said, that day, and it was just coincidence, that day, the board had decided, I asked the board, and they said, yes, we had one of our schools that we had 2 kindergarten classes, and the class sizes had jumped with new enrollments to 22. No way, not in kindergarten. We added a new kindergarten section, we hired them last week, and now there's 3 sections of 16, right? Or 15, or 14. That was a math teacher too. Those are the great things that the merger will get you, right? You're at bare bones right now. You don't have to be at bare bones. Mary actually admitted last night to taking the stuff we're throwing out, the furniture we throw out. She takes them and uses them as desks for her teachers. We'll get new desks for all the teachers. Like, it's a world that will be better. It boggles my mind that you would even fight it. Like, you're holding on to something and it's just bare bones here. You have a great school here. That great school is the staff and the students. It's the people. And those people are going to stay here. They're going to continue to be the great part about it. But all the things that they're complaining about, all the things that they wish they had, they're now going to have. I think we probably can go on to the next slide. So there's the details of those numbers that we talked about last night, right? The tax rate was an increase of $115,000 last year. The total state aid increase, again, no choice of the school board here, no choice of Mary. The state aid gives you $62,000, so you get an extra revenue of $177,000. Next slide, please. Just the staffing here, just to keep the staff where it is, and have the salary increases that are already built in and the health insurance increases that are already built in. Just that part costs $375,000. You're already, and that doesn't count anything else that might come up. Doesn't count any other costs that we know we have. Transportation and all the other things, right? Even just with those, you're already $200,000 over or under. Where do you get that money? You get it from your reserves. The reserves run out, depending on if you're going to go 2% or 6.75% or 10%. Your reserves run out anywhere from 2 years from now to 4 years from now. That's not a position that a school district can be in when they don't have any money left for something that might happen wrong. And then, going past that, if your revenues still come in under your expenses, I'm not sure what to do. I was talking to Bob about that today. I don't know what a district does at that point except the stuff that he was talking about where the state probably comes in. There was the things we talked about last night. The average tax rate was about 2% that you've been using here, and whatever the tax cap is, but it fluctuated a little bit, but it was about 2%. That's that left column. If you stay at 2%, right, that means you utilize all your reserves in 2 years. 2 years your money's gone, your savings account is gone. Think about, again, your personal finances. You don't have any money left for any kind of emergency. So all those things under that would have to get cut, right? I don't have to read them for you, you can see them. If the community would accept a 6.4% increase in taxes, and that's every year, that's not a one-time correction, that's every year you would need that, right? I don't know any community that will accept that, but maybe this one would. 6.4% every single year, then you got that middle column, right? Even then, you're out of money in 4 years. So really the number is probably 10% tax increase, 12%. To really survive long term, you're talking about it, this building's gonna stay open 5, 6, 7, 8 years. If this vote goes down, I'm telling you the answer is probably no. From an outsider looking in at these finances and hearing Mary talk and seeing the reports that Bob and Brian put together, right? If you don't do this merger, and you're in 1 or 2 columns there, unless this community is going to accept a 10 or 11% tax increase in perpetuity, then yeah, that's going to be an issue. Or you go to that third column. That third column is a merger with the Troy School District. You keep the building open, you keep all the staff here, the students get all the things that they were asking these consultants for last year. Everything happens. Not only don't we reduce staff, we can add supports, we can add staffing, we can add programs, all the things that we have in our Troy schools, and you can have the same things in this school. Next one, please. So I said that, right? I can keep going. There's just a graphic I wanted to share again. We shared that last night, right? I already said it. That is if you go 6.4%, or you take the 5% reduction and zeros for the next 4. That red line is further and further and further away from that green line, right? In year 5, it's an $1,800 savings for the average taxpayer here in Wynantskill. $1,800. Over that 5 years, it's $6,000 savings. Okay, that's real money. That's real money difference for every single taxpayer in Wynantskill. Next one's Troy. Troy also saves, right? The Troy savings in year 5 is about $440. For a total savings about $1,600, right? Our taxes, we don't save as much for the Troy taxpayers because our taxes are actually, per dollar amount, are lower. But still great savings for the Troy taxpayers as well. It's a great, great, great situation, a fantastic opportunity to get all the things that people are saying here, all in one. I think that's it, sir.
So now we're going to transition to school choice. That's been the first 2.5 meetings that we've talked about. And we're going to turn it over to Mary for the presentation on choice.
Thank you. Here are our slides. Great. Somebody's going to do the clicker. Okay. Thank you, John, for summarizing last night. Last night we talked a lot about the budget, a lot about what's happening with losing enrollment at Wynantskill and the foundation aid. I spent probably about 40 minutes discussing that and detailing slides, so those will be on the website, the shared website at Questar. You can look at my slides and you can, the audio will be up as well. So I really think everybody needs to listen to that even a little bit more deeply, but thank you for recapping last night. We're going to talk about high school choice tonight. We're going to have a discussion. I'm going to give you a little history, and again, this is going to be approximate, right? These are what the human mind, what we have, or what thoughts, who was here. Really hard to find documentation, so again, these are approximate dates. I'm going to say for more than a century, we felt confident saying the century, Troy City School District has served at the primary high school option for almost 80 years, approximate 80 years, being the sole provider. So when students graduated 8th grade, they went to the Troy City School District. It's a long-standing relationship with Troy. rooted in trust across academics, co-curriculum programs, athletics. Our athletics this year are going amazing. That merger's going wonderful. Generations of Wynantskill families have attended Tri-City school districts, and everything has been a solid relationship. So we appreciate that. The next slide. Okay. Additional high school options. Again, these are to the best of our recollection or records that we can find. Averill Park became a second option, accepting Wynantskill students starting in about 1994. It closed off access a few years later. Averill Park made that decision that we can no longer take your students. At the time, Wynantskill Superintendent Wilford LaForester worked very hard on to grandfather in siblings. Bill has been consulting with me quite a bit over the last couple months, and he's given us the history that he worked hard to work to grandfather students in so that they'd be able to attend AP for several years. So whoever was there, they grandfathered in. So maybe, even though it was open for a few years, maybe it was actually 7 years or 10 years that the kids who were grandfathered in stayed in. Averill Park reopened its door as a high school choice, along with East Greenbush, Brunswick, and Tech Valley High between the years of 2004 and 2007. The Hudson Valley Community College program emerged as an additional high school choice when it opened in 2021. That's where we are at this point with 6, as you see those on the bottom, 6 high school choices that we have up right now. The next slide I want to show, because again, this has a great financial impact. Here are the tuition agreements for this year, 25-26 tuition agreements. And the tuitions range from, well, the tuitions in Troy, Averill Park, East Greenbush, and Brunswick. Those are the high school public choices of high school. They range from $2,000 a year to $11,000, almost $12,000 in Brunswick. The 2 Questar programs, again, these Questar programs are, one is $13,777, and the other is on a 5-year rolling average. And if anybody wants to stay after and ask Harry, because that's not as easy, but Harry represents Questar 3 BOCES. These are BOCES programs. We do send students, we let anyone who wants to go to these BOCES program. We do get the aid back the following year, but you do have to front that money, and then it's going back, you know, to credit the aid, the BOCES aid. And that is the Hudson Valley P-Tech program and the Tech Valley High. So those are our 6 choices. Because those numbers are all over the place, it makes it very hard, right, to control the budget when we are in such difficult times. So the next slide, this is last year. This is just to give you what we paid last year in 24-25. The total tuition was $1.6 million, over $1.6 million. That was in general education, special education. General education are the public schools. The special education high schools includes Wildwood High School, or Wildwood, the program that we have 2 students there. Special ed BOCES, Tech Valley gets some related service, special ed related service, Tech Valley High School, and again, HVCC, those Questar BOCES program. So last year, this was the total amount spent. That is a large sum of money in our budget. This is the question that has been asked, what will happen to school choice? As we said last night, this is bare bones. Wynantskill is bare bones. For the 5 years, the last 5 budget seasons, we've made it work. We made it work with COVID money. We made it work with 3 teachers decide to retire and I did replace. We made it work because we have large numbers of over 20 students in kindergarten, 1st grade. This year there are 2 sections of 2nd, but next year behind that will be 1 section of 2. We will be 1 section pre-K 2. We are whole with 2 sections, as we've always been, in 3 through 8, because as I showed in my slides last night, Little Red their enrollment has gone up. They're doing well, they're thriving, and we appreciate when they come to us in grade 3. So if Gina Mahoney has a classroom of 20, one classroom of 20 second graders and 10 joined last year, then we have 2 classes of 15 in 3rd grade. So they've kept us 2 sections, 3 and through 8. But going back and looking at what else could we cut, we couldn't possibly cut another staff member. We have cut down, we have right-sized, as John explained, we don't have a 6th grade anymore. We have every middle school teacher is stretched and teach 6, 7, 8, and our accelerated 9. They're teaching 4 grade levels. We are pretty bare bones. So looking at this scenario, if this annexation did not go through, we would seriously have to consider, and there would be serious immediate discussions with the school board of eliminating school choice, cutting it down, phasing it out, however we would discuss it. This, I just gave you a scenario just to look at here using this example. These are current numbers I took the numbers of the kids at every school. There was 126 students. I multiplied times the tuition of the school they're attending right now and came up with a total of a little over $1 million. I did not include special ed. So for this exercise, it did not include special ed. That would be even higher. I didn't go through and tease out which kids we spent more on. This would be, just taking the actual tuitions that we will be paying this school year for regular ed. Versus, right, so if we weren't going to 6 different choices, we were just going to Troy like we did for 80 years, 20, 30 years ago, the 124 students at $2,000 apiece would be $248,000. So that's a tremendous savings, right? So that's almost $800,000 that we would not be spending on high school choice. So here's the issue is we know that we've been accustomed to school choice, going from 4 to 6, 4 to 5, 6, we have 6 choices. That's a lot of choices. It's quite a bit of choice, not only in the tuition, but in the transportation. We go to 29 schools a day with our transportation department, just with all the private schools, transporting for Little Red and their private schools. It's very challenging going to all the schools and making transportation work. Obviously, it is a huge expense. It's an expense, again, of $1.6 million a year that we have to really think about and consider. So that's just giving you a little framework of where we've been, and now I'm going to turn it over to John to have a little discussion on the transition period that we're going to talk about. I said thank you to Jackson, Vanessa, Juliana, and Madison, who are our GD graduates that took us on a tour last week. And Juliana's here, and she's here with her friend from their journalism class, and they've been filming us, and who knows what they're going to say about what we've been saying tonight. But Juliana's going to speak a little later. But I do thank you for being here, and we're so proud of everything you've done in the 4 years and the work that you've done at Troy. So we can't wait to hear.
So we'll open it up for questions and comments in a moment, and we'll start with our students at that time. Just wanted to kind of give a little bit of parameters to it. I mean, certainly we'll listen to any comment or try to answer any questions you have, like we've done at all these meetings. But we're looking at school choice. We've heard you. I've said it at each of the meetings. We've heard the feedback. On our sheet, we talk about a transition period that's reasonable, practical, and sustainable. You just heard how much it costs, right? So it can't go on forever, and that's not reasonable, not sustainable, right? So we've had feedback both directly through the email, through different places, that are kind of all different places, right? There are some people that say any person that has a baby born in Wynantskill right now should have choice because they bought their house and they have a baby now. I can't do that, right? I can't agree to that. I'll tell you right now, that's going to be a no. That's 18 years from now or 19 years from now, right? The money runs out in 14 years, right? It's a lot of money. We're going to get a lot of great things done. But 14 years from now, we're back to a normal amount of aid that comes from the state. In those last few years, the money's about $2 million, $3 million, $4 million. I'm not going to agree, and I don't think our Board of Ed would agree, to spend $1.6 million out of $2 million so that kids could go to a different high school, right? So 18 years, 14 years, that's too long. We have some people telling us, stop it in 1 year, stop it next year, right? They see the price, they're telling us, why would you give any choice? You have a high school, make sure everybody goes to high school, and then you can save that money and use it for more programs and more staffing and more great things for kids. I don't think that's fair. And I'll tell you, I'm not going to do that, right? I've already said I'm going to promise that anybody who's in those schools right now can stay in those schools, but I've also promised that there's going to be some transition period. So where is that sweet spot, right? It's not going to be 18 years, it's not going to be 14 years, but it's not going to be 0 years. Right? And I would even say, and we've talked about this a lot, which is why we're trying to frame it a little bit. We've had these conversations because we know how important it is, we know how emotional people are about it, right? Is it fair for a current 7th or 8th grader here at Wynantskill that has their eyes set on it, like, oh man, I've been waiting to go to East Bemis, I've been waiting to go to Averill Park. That's probably not fair. So now we're talking, all right, that's a couple years, 2, 3, 4 years, all right? So what is the sweet spot, right? And so as we're thinking, we want your feedback tonight. We want the feedback to the email. We want your feedback calling us directly. After every one of these meetings, we stay up here. If you don't want to talk in public, Bob always says you can come talk to him after, you can come talk to me after, right? People have done that at each of the meetings. But we have to decide at some point, I don't know if that's tonight or not, but at some point we have to agree, where is that fair, reasonable, practical, sustainable solution? I'm telling you it's not 14 years. I'm telling you also I'm not going to do 0, 1, 2 years. So where is it? So how many years should it be? What about families that have multiple children, right? We want to talk about that. Because certainly I'm also not going to make 2 siblings from the same family in high school at the same time go to 2 different high schools, right? So if you have a 9th grader at Averill Park right now, and you have a 7th grader at Gardner Dickinson, well, I'm not going to make the 7th grader or even 6th grader go to Troy High while his brother or his older brother or sister is going to Averill Park, right? So there's something about multiple families. Now, if you have an 11th grader at Averill Park and a kindergartner, well, that's not so unreasonable, right? Because that 11th grader is going to be long gone past college by the time that kindergarten goes to high school, right? So we've thought about all of these, we've talked about all of these, we have some ideas, but we want to hear your feedback tonight. This meeting is supposed to be topics. The topic is school choice, so let's open it up. And I think, Bob, you wanted to start with the students, right?
Yes, one of the things that and as I transition to the students, this is the email address. As I said earlier, we need to hear from you. Troy, WUFSD, feasibility@gmail.com. Brian and I get them. We analyze the question. We make sure that question gets to the correct person at either Troy or Wynantskill. There have been some that have been specific to either program, either district, or specific to both schools, so then we have a conversation, but we keep that information in the strictest confidence. We're going to start with the students because when we had a meeting just last week or so, there was some spirited conversations. And we heard through the students that they wanted to speak first so that we kept it student-centered and that we kept the focus on what is in their best interest. As adults, we're passionate, we have feelings, we have history, but it comes down to the students. So the students asked to speak first, and I'm going to turn it over to the students, and then when we get to everybody else, we've had 3 great forums so far. Everything's been kind, respectful, and cordial. We're going to continue to keep that, and we're going to try to have a conversation about what school choice should evolve into.
Hi everyone, my name is Juliana. I'm currently a junior at Troy High. Last week, as you know, I gave the tour of the school. After the tour, I went to the meeting where I heard some comments that made me want to speak. I just wanted to say a few things about my experience. So I went from GD, and I went from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. Coming from GD, which when I was a small school, I was excited but nervous about what high school would look like. When I first got to Troy, I tried volleyball for a season, and now I play softball. I'm a part of student council and international club where we're going to be traveling to Italy in February. I'm currently taking 3 college courses through Hudson Valley, and I plan to take more next year. My brother, who also went to GD, attended Troy. When he graduated, he received multiple academic scholarships, and now he goes to Union College where he plays football and studies finance. I hope everyone can take a moment to see everything Troy has to offer academically, socially, and athletically, as well as life experiences you will learn while at Troy.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll transition to any comments or thoughts on school choice. Any more students who want to speak? Okay, adults.
Me again. Hi, I didn't introduce myself last time. My name is Ann Allen. I went to Gardner Dickinson too, from kindergarten to 8th grade, class of 1982. Then I went to Troy High School, class of 1986. I understand what you're saying. It's true. I didn't have a better time in Troy. I didn't. But you know what? What I saw when I was there, Troy doesn't have the money the other schools do. It just doesn't. That's why it costs more to go to the other schools. And what I see is when you talk about school choice, if people here in Wynantskill, if most people wanted their kids to go to Troy, then we wouldn't have those numbers of tuition. It wouldn't be an issue. You'd have everybody going to Troy. It would all be $2,000. It wouldn't be an issue. The reason you have an issue is that people in this community don't only want their kids to go to Troy. Some people do. For some people, it's a great option. We heard what the things they have there, and I believe you, they are good things. I have good things. But for some kids, a smaller school like Tamarack is going to be a better school for them. They only want going from this small school to a very big school with hundreds of kids isn't going to be what they want. Or they might want programs that they have at the other schools. That's why school choice is important. Because if everybody here wanted to go to Troy, we wouldn't be having this tuition question. The other thing is, I do have a question. The reason I think we have a problem is these are all numbers that we talked about years and years ago. Do you know what I mean? We were told 8%. 15 years ago. We were told we were going to be bankrupt 15 years ago. I'm not saying we won't. Maybe we will this time. But I'm just saying we keep being told the same thing. And then it doesn't happen. So it makes it really hard to trust. And it would be really helpful if there was something more that we could be offered.
So you didn't, I hear what you're saying, everything, I appreciate it. What do you want the transition period to be in years? So that the kids who want to go to Tamarack can go to Tamarack?
I'm against murder.
What?
I'm against murder. I told you why. Because 15 years ago, we were told we had 8% required. It wasn't true. How can we tell it's true this time?
I would look at the slides that I'm going to post from last night.
We had slides too, they were really nice. We believe them.
These slides tell you how much I need to spend this year and the gap. This year, for this year's budget that we're currently in, we have a gap of $600,000. That has not happened before. Not in my 5 years. We have a gap of $600,000. I couldn't close it. I borrowed out of reserves. Our reserves are $2.7 million. At what point will that run out when I'm pulling 600 a
I
year?
think
So that's real to me.
And I'd like to hear about these things. I think the community would like to hear about
Yes,
this.
and so again.
Yeah, no, you're doing it now. You're doing it now. But I also wonder, did we look at other schools to merge with?
Again, our discussion right now
I
is
know,
merging with
how long?
Troy.
How long? I think that the other issue that I have with this is, have we taken into account our property values going down? Because that's going to happen. The same house in Troy is not the same as the house in Wynantskill. That's why I'm against losing school choice. I'm against.
Sorry, I'll answer that part, because that came out really early in the merger, that property values go down. We looked it up, talked to many real estate agents, no one confirmed that property taxes go down by changing to the Troy School District. There are many properties in the Troy School District, and they all got their hand up, talk about it.
So I understand there are a lot of concerns, and I do want to be largely helpful, and I have worked at so many jobs that can answer these questions. One is in real estate, and the difference price per square foot between Troy for comparable home in Wynantskill is negligible. We're not asking Arbor Hill to merge with Flowerville. These apples and oranges, and I know I heard in the last meeting someone concerned with how close the border of Troy is to the bottom of the hill. And are those kids going to go there? And that's like right where I live. Like that's me and mine, so that's kind of tough. And actually, the border isn't right at the bottom of the hill. You have to go right, and then it's diagonal. So a point is on one side of the road and not the other. And the reason you might not know that is because there isn't a huge change in the character of the structures or the humans who reside in them. My kids are great, and so are my neighbors. We do a block party every year on the last day of school. Anyone's welcome to join. When I heard about moving kids back and forth between the School 16 neighborhood and Wynantskill, I heard concerns, and I get it, and I'm concerned too, because I didn't want to live in Wynantskill and miss. Like, I didn't be like, oh man, I couldn't afford Wynantskill Superior in Troy. I intentionally decided to live in Troy because I value diversity and I value all the things that Troy has to offer. And so not only do we outperform Wynantskill, I believe, on state exams at School 16, yes, we do. We exceed the state average, and we have not only pre-K, and I only saw pre-K up there, we also have pre-K, so 3-year-olds are also able to enroll, plus after-school programs, plus and the list goes on and on. But what we have, and when I thought about it, like, oh, well, the class sizes aren't fair, and we had to move whoever's closest into Wynantskill, I'd be really disappointed because I would lose the community that I was seeking out and the diversity that I wanted for my kids, because it's not just educational, it's about the character lessons that you learn when you are with kids who aren't necessarily just like you. And I'd still vote for fairness, always, with class sizes, but it's not like School 16 is going to bang down your door and those kids want to go to Wynantskill. We are happy where we are, and as PTA president, I can tell you we're not busting at the seams. I don't know our official number, but I get the classroom list every time that there's a fundraiser to see how many kids are in each class. The number of kids in School 16 has ranged from 6 kids to 22. I'd say the average is about 18. And 6 kids because we got pre-K and pre-K, and those are smaller classes. But when my son had 18 kids in his class, he had 2 full-time teachers. So that means after a lesson, there's a teacher for the kids who maybe don't get the lesson the first time. And then there's a teacher for the kids who get it the first time. And you can push them even further. And we have had a ton of success with that. So I feel badly that people are concerned. Everything we do at School 16 is with an eye towards including our kids, being an inclusive community. We have a parent-teacher night December 4th, and we do It Takes a Village night. So we ask that people, if you have a parent-teacher conference for 15 minutes and you don't want to get a babysitter, then you just drop your kids at the gymnasium. And we ask if you drop your kids for 15 minutes, you stay for 15 minutes, and you watch someone else's kids. And if you wanted to come and hang with the School 16 kids and see that they're not so bad, you're
focus point. These are great stories. Brian and I are here all night, but we're really looking for input on the level of transition potentially for choice.
Would you be open to giving us the choice? I see the tuition rates, the two lowest ones were Troy next to Sacred Park. Would you be open to giving us the option of Sacred Park?
I'm open right now, and that's why we're talking, to give them that option for all of them, just not forever. We have to come out, we have to decide on, ultimately, the district office and board will have to decide on, but we're looking for your input on how long do you think that that's fair to go on. If you're asking me if I would consider Able Park forever, no, I won't consider that. Again, at 9,000 I think it was, 9,000 times, if it's 20 kids, I'm not spending that kind of money to send kids to a different high school. A high school that I would say, I'm friends with the superintendent, doesn't have nearly the programs and supports and great things that we have at Troy. The college credits, Juliana talked about the 3 college credits, I said it last week. Gardner Dickinson kids alone last year had 220 college credits before they got to college. Our graduating seniors last year, 2,000 college credits, our graduating seniors. Right? She talked about her brother getting scholarships. We give away about $300,000 a year, not getting scholarships from colleges. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about money that we get from people coming from alumni, from Hall of Fame committees, from different groups that work with us, $300,000 to give to our seniors. We have so much great stuff. I'm not going to spend Troy School District taxpayer money in the long run to send kids to a different high school. So what I'd like to hear is, what do people think is a reasonable period of time, right? I told you the extremes. Is it 0? Is it 18? I can't do 0. I'm not going to do 0. I'm not doing 18 or 14. But where is that sweet spot? All I'm here right now is, please don't do it. That's not my decision. That'll ultimately be the Wynantskill voters' decision. I told you what I feel like you should do, right? That'll be in March. If you have input on how long that transition period would be fair, reasonable, sustainable, I would love to hear it.
So I'm going to speak for myself. Being a resident from Wynantskill, having kids going through Gardner Dickinson, one going to Able Park, one going to Troy High. And I think that you're misinterpreting what is being said at some of these meetings as that we don't want the best for our kids, and we do. I appalled to hear at these meetings that this school is in such poor condition that it's rendered parts of it are, like, I would say, not safe. I have nieces and nephews that come to this school, and I just can't believe, how did we get to this point? And you make mention that Mrs. Jonas and Ford, brought it to the attention. Well, shouldn't it have been brought to the attention sooner? That I'm just hearing all of this because we're looking to merge with Troy High School, Troy City Schools. That's a concern. We want the absolute best for our kids. And if that means that we merge with Troy High, then so be it. But we also are being told to have truths. And you wonder why we have dismay? Because not everything is being put out there in full truth. That's my perspective. You didn't want to answer the gentleman's question about whether the school, the grade school that he was referring to, would actually come to our school. You said, well, that would be down the line.
It won't come to your school. Again, you're asking. I can't predict what happens 14 years from now, and I don't think you're asking me to do that. But
I am asking you to predict what's going to happen in the next 5 years.
Nothing's going to happen in the next 5 years. I don't know how many times I can say it. Nothing's going to happen in the same 5 years. Those same teachers that have the blue shirts over there, I love WTA are all going to be sitting here. If we have a meeting next year, they're all going to still be sitting here. Shannon, the principal, is still going to be sitting here. Nothing's going to change in the next 5 years. Zero. The only thing that's going to change in the next 5 years is this is going to be a much better building than it's ever been. Right? I never said.
What exactly is going to be done in the next 5 years as far as the integrity of this building?
For the facilities?
Yes.
Oh, well, you just heard Ed talking about the building condition survey, the immediate stuff.
I saw beautiful pictures.
Yeah,
and
the pictures.
they are beautiful. I'm not going to say, but we don't need tennis courts. We don't need X, Y, and Z. Yes, we do need integral aspects taken care of here.
Yeah.
What are we going to do?
Okay.
Is it going to be transparent to us as a community?
Of course it is. Of course it is. Listen, you saw the list of capital projects that we do in Troy. I don't decide all that stuff, right? That's a committee that comes together. We have board discussions. We have community discussions. I'm sure that Ms. Jodas does that here as well. You said that we say you don't want the best for kids. I never said that. If I implied that, I apologize. Everybody wants the best for their kids. What I'm arguing for you is the best for your kids is to do this merger. That's what I'm saying, right? The building condition survey, the unsafe things that you're talking about will get taken care of right away, right? That'll be the first project. The rest of the projects will be a community decision with committees and with both staff and community members and teachers and staff members, whoever it is, students, everyone will have input. What do we want this school to look like? Ed was just giving some examples. We don't know if we're going to tennis courts. He's just giving you examples of with the money that's out there right now, the possibilities are endless for the great things that we can do in this building, right? So that's the end of the story. I don't know what half-truths you think I told. I haven't told one half-truth. I've told all truths. And everything I'm saying is for the students and staff and community here, right? If this vote goes down, Troy School District doesn't change, right? I'm here all these nights, I'm doing all this work because, like Mary just said, she's sacrificing everything, she almost sacrificed her job because we want what's best for this community and these students. If it gets voted down, we're going to have a capital project in Troy still in the next few years and upgrade our building some more. And we're still going to have the after-school programs that Joel was talking about. We're still going to have 2 teachers with 18 kids helping kids be successful. We're still going to have the scholarships and the college credits that Juliana was talking about. Troy will go on. I'm here begging you to do the right thing for your own community. Our community is not going to change. We're going to benefit from the money too, right? But we're okay. One of the speakers said we don't have any money. I don't know where that came from. You know, you can look at our finances. We're in great financial shape. The other districts that you're talking about might have some financial districts. You said we have less money than everybody else. I'm not sure what that meant. We are in fantastic financial shape. I mean, we're going to be fine either way. I want this because it's going to be great for the people here, students especially. I still haven't gotten one answer about the appropriate transition period. If you leave it up to me, it might be 1 year. So.
Hi. I would love to answer your question or throw out a number. Is 5 years reasonable?
5 years. I mean, that's what I'm figuring. So that's good. In fact, thank you. I'm
You're
going to write down
welcome.
5 years right now. That's the first step. That's what we're looking for. Now we're coming.
Hi. As a Troy taxpayer currently, I would support 5 or 6 years.
5 or 6. Now we're rolling. Okay, go over.
Hi, Zach Stevens. I got 2 daughters here, pre-K or second grader. So this is all the future. Don't worry about school choice for me. I don't think so. It seems reasonable. But to answer the question, I think if you're in middle school, you're having to go to high school right now, you should be able to go there. Maybe you can grandfather a little bit and have with brothers and sisters. Basically exactly what you were speaking before. I know that's going to exact votes, or whatever, when's the vote, goes again, whatever that class will take. And I just, this is an ask, and I apologize, I wasn't able to make last week's or yesterday's meeting, so this has been asked before. A lot of this data that we see in the slides, is that available in raw form somewhere? I'm a man that loves an Excel spreadsheet, and to be able to play with this, and to some people's concerns about half truths or this, it's a nice presentation, and just some, trying to sales years, it kind of feels like that's what it is. But is raw data available to actually take a look at for this?
Probably, but you have to be specific. You can send it to the email which data you're talking about. We have a lot out there.
No, Dr. Rhodes was saying just the calculations with, I know you can say you did that successfully in terms of.
Greg Sims is our financial planner. He updated in May. We had him update this Monday. Because again, people were asking what would be the tax impact if this did go down. Is it 6.5? He estimated, that was a little bit of an estimation. We brought over a little bit more carryover, so now he said, okay, it's 6.4. When all of that data, all those slides, he updated them for Monday, so we can put that on the feasibility study, the link, and all a ton of data. That's real as of Monday, which would have closed out last year, because over the summer, we're still closing out the books, we're still looking at the reserves. So all of it is very, very up to date. So yeah, we can put all of that, the slides, and as much data as we have.
I'd appreciate it. Just a final thing, 30 seconds, is just one slide or information that I think we really need to pack. I'll try to make it if I can. What does the numbers look like for cost for school choice if it doesn't happen next year? We just eliminate it. That's complete savings at $0. What does 1 year cost? 2 years cost? You can't go on forever. The numbers start getting imaginary, but 8 years, what does that cost? That would be helpful, I think, for me and for a lot of folks just to see where this number lines if and when this merger actually happens.
Thank you so much. I think we had one right here. Good. Okay. Just keep working around.
Thanks, Josh.
Oh, okay. Fortunately, my phone's on the table, so I'm not trying to step.
I'm in case I've got 3 kids here for 7, 1 that's in 2nd grade. I think that, as far as like the parameter, that you guys have reiterated several times, is that, how would that come in is, I've got a 4th grader, let's just say that in national choice of 5 years, he ends up going to Hayward Park. My 2nd grader who's kind of coming up the lines, we passed that 5-year time span. What is that? Where do those numbers come in? What options do we have? Obviously, I'm not expecting the answer right now.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat the grades that you?
7th, 4th, and 2nd. So, and I can certainly, pose that question and, form too as well.
Yeah, send it to the email, but I think I'll just tell you, we've talked about it. We didn't talk about your specific children, but we have these conversations every day trying to hit the sweet spot where we think it might be. And so, 7th grade, I think, like I said, fits like, and the gentleman agreed, like the middle school area, I think 7th grade's in. So then, what do we do with siblings? Because I think I said already also, we don't really want siblings who are in high school at the same time to have to go to 2 different high schools, right? So, if 7th grade is the cutoff, like current 7th graders, and they have a 4th grade sibling, well, yeah, they're in high school again, right? So now, which becomes part of the problem. So now you have a 4th grader who has a 2nd grade sibling, yeah, they're in high school again. Can't go on forever. So yeah, we have to figure that out. But that's exactly the kind of information I need tonight, just to try to sort through it.
Now we've got one here, and then I'll come up.
Okay.
So I'm in the same kind of situation. My son is in 10th grade, the AP, and the youngest is in 3rd grade. So I have like a 6.5-year gap. When my oldest graduates from high school, my youngest will just be in 5th grade. So that 5-year gap, I can miss by like a year or so, depending if will it be when this goes through? So like, I think it's going into his fifth grade, is the 27, 28, I think, school year, this would fall into play or not?
Well, that's what we're here for tonight. So tell me again, you have a 10th grader
So like a 10th grader.
and a 3rd grader.
And a 3rd grader.
Yeah, so to me, again, just me talking off the top of my head, and we talked about all these situations again, I don't want to keep repeating it, but I want you to know that this is something that we're spending time on because we know how important it is to people. 10th and 3rd are not going to be in the same school at the same time. So my immediate would be, okay, not quite, doesn't fit quite as that gentleman's situation fits. Now, that's the sibling part, right? 3rd grade, now 3rd grade is 9 years. 9 years might be too long, right? So but again, that's what I want to hear. That's what we're here for tonight. So I've got the 5, I've got the 5, 6, I've got the 7, and now 9, right? I wrote it down, but
Could there be like individual, so like if you have like, all right, 5 years, there you go, you get 5 years of choice, those people are all set. But then moving forward, like where your child's life time will have, granted they won't be in the school at the time together. My son did go to AP and we talked about the grandfather thing, and could it be on an individual kind of like basis for, let's say an extended 5 years for some people, and then unfortunately maybe we have to let go and be like, okay, we're just trying more options.
yeah,
I
I hear you. I'm not gonna say, I hear you, and I appreciate it, and I wrote it down. I'm not gonna dismiss it. Here's the issue. If we entertain a 10th and a 3rd, I think, what if there's a 10th and a 3rd, and that 3rd now has a kindergarten also, right? So now the 10th, 3rd, kindergarten, and then the kindergarten also has a 2-year-old brother. So, I mean, at some point, there's got to be a cutoff. At some point, there's got to be people that just missed the deadline. I don't know where that is yet, but it's not as critical for me that a 3rd grade doesn't go to the same high school as their sibling who went that long ago and is already at college, right? But I wrote it down. I'm not dismissing it. And we talked last time, and I appreciate you coming back. So we'll figure that out.
John, before we go to the next question, we do have a current database of all high school students and their choice, and if they
And
have
their siblings.
So we do have that as a
And we've been studying.
That's basically what I was going to recommend, John, is looking at the individual families and where that overlap would go and individualize it per family to make it easier on parents so they're not being pulled at 2 different high schools throughout the high schools or the span of their kids being in those high schools, right? But I think to your point, a 10th grader and a 3rd grader, there would really be that overlap. But if you have a 3rd grader and a kindergartner along with that 10th grader, 3rd and the kindergarten should be fine going to Troy, in my opinion, because the parent just has to go to one high school. If you have 2 separate kids that are going to be pulled away in 2 different directions, it makes it harder on the community. So maybe making an individualized type of process.
Well, yeah.
With some.
So it's some individualized, because we are studying that the database that Bob referred to, and thank him for getting that. He's done a lot of, Brian has done a lot of work, to get ready for all these decisions and discussions. So you can't really make decisions different for this family than this family. But as we're making decisions, we're looking at all the family situations from that database. And are there other people that have a 10 and a 3rd and now a kindergarten and a 2-year-old, like I just said, right? So you can't let one 10th and 3rd grader do it if you're not going to let the other 10th and 3rd grader. So we are looking at all of that. Like where we got that information?
Yeah.
That'd have to be a Bobby, so I didn't get it. How did you get that information with the siblings?
from the student management system.
get that information, but I think I said it already and I'll repeat it. That to me seems not reasonable, that somebody's 1 year old and we're going to still do that. So that's 17 years from now. The money's gone. Again, that's not a prudent decision as Superintendent of Troy to spend the money we just said it would cost 17 years from now so that a 1 year old can go to Averill Park. I'm telling you right now, we can get that information if you want, but that's a length of time that doesn't fit, to me, doesn't fit reasonable, practical, and sustainable.
So Superintendent Carmelo, can we think outside the box a little bit?
Try every day.
Okay. So you would have to have a contract, correct, with these school districts in order to send?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So would it be possible to negotiate the possibility of any other family members after that arbitrary number of years, that they can then still send their children there, but they would be responsible for their tuition?
So the question is, can a family, and make sure I get this right, independently contract with another school system? And the answer is maybe. That's a local decision that they choose. Some school districts absolutely say no way will they allow students to be parentally placed in their public school district. There's a whole lot of reasons for that. Some say absolutely, and they set their tuition rate for gen ed students. You can see the wide differential. That's a local decision. Special ed, which was one of Mary's columns, is set by the state. You can't charge more for a special ed kid to come to a district. The local school district sets it. If the parents independently place them at another high school, then they are responsible for 100% of the cost, including transportation, because it would be perceived as a gift of public funds to allow them to have access to supports when they're choosing to go somewhere. There's a whole bunch of restrictions to it, but the simple answer is it depends upon the district.
Depends on the other district.
And the other district.
We at Troy do accept tuition students, and we have a lot of them. People from actually the communities that we're talking about send us letters every year to say, can I go to Troy? I don't want to go to the school I'm in. We have a lot of them. We accept them. I don't know about the other schools, and I can't speak for them. So I think that's just my answer to that.
As I'm transitioning, Dr. Yodeson can correct me, but the current tuition contracts for high school students all expire in 2026. So the numbers that Mary listed for the other school districts are subject to renegotiation. They could say, yes, we'll keep them where they're at and be nice. They could be even nicer and say, they'll reduce it by 50% because Wynantskill is having an issue, or they could say, no, we're increasing them. So all of those and the transportation contracts that we reviewed during the optimization study are renewable by July 1 of 26. So that'll have to be a separate conversation from this as Dr. Yodeson and the board wrestle with her budget development for 26, 27.
But it is a good point that we will have to have contracts with all of those districts. If whatever we agree to as an appropriate, reasonable, sustainable transition period, the other districts will have to be on board with that, and we'll have to have contracts with them.
I just wanted to add, I'm Adam Mojelling, I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Business. Some districts are really fearful to accept parentally placed students because there's a federal law that if you accept a regular ed student from a parentally placed family and then another family wants to place a special ed student, you have to charge the regular ed rate. And so that district would bear the cost of that education. So that's why some districts don't do it. And I know some districts around here do not. That's the primary reason really why they don't.
Thank you.
I just wondered, I had a question. Do you think any of the districts will choose not to opt into the same choices that they're giving us as if we are a Troy district?
I don't,
What do you think?
I don't know that. Yeah.
I just wonder what you thought.
Actually, I've been thinking about, like, once we come to some agreement what that transition period is, I'll be reaching out to those superintendents and make sure.
Yeah.
Great question.
And the process to renegotiate is, for the tuition contracts, is relatively simple. It's a little harder for a transportation contract, and that's why it had to be part of the budget conversation for Dr. Giotis and the board. Sorry, I can't hear you.
One last question. The money that you're getting for the extended period of time for the years, is it your intention to spend that full amount at this school? Or, because I know it goes to Troy School District, so chunks can be probably with the other schools, but like with this big grand plan.
Yeah, no.
What's your intention with the?
No, well, I think there's two different answers to that. The money that we were talking about with the facility upgrades, that is not even included in the 241 million. That's different money. That's money, once the 14 million, the maximum cost allowance that I was talking about, that first 14 million, that doesn't come off the 241. That's a different 14 million that the state is going to give us. And we're only going to have to come up with 2% of that, and we'll have that in a capital reserve to pay, so it won't be any impact on taxpayers. The 241 million that we'll get over 14 or 15 years, absolutely is going to get used by everybody. We're not going to spend $241 million here. No. We'll upgrade the things here as far as programming and staffing and all those kinds of things, after school program and any, the things that we've talked about. But that also is going to certainly benefit all of our schools in Troy and all of our students in Troy, definitely.
As well as curriculum, professional development, after-school clubs and activities, everything that makes a school system robust. For that 241 million, that's a decision between the community, the stakeholders, and the Board of Education to make. The building aid, that's still a community conversation. We've all been through the community conversations about capital improvements. That doesn't change. The aid refinancing is a behind-the-scenes invisible activity that benefits all taxpayers. And then the conversations about annual budget spending is a very public process that all school districts are required to undertake, and they've done that pretty consistently. So we're gonna...
Nobody would call any of our schools bare bones ever again.
And no more dumpster diving.
No more dumpster diving.
So I just want to ask both superintendents and the Board of Ed members, if you think you've heard kind of a fair representation of some of the temperament and some of the guiding questions. I feel as though I've got a better understanding of some parameters, but I don't want to speak for anybody else or cut anybody off, but Brian and I will hang around. We've got some students that need to get home that just left. John, Mary, any?
Yeah, I would just say what we always say, which is yourselves, or tell people that weren't here tonight to send their ideas to the email, right? We've gotten a bunch of things there, a bunch of people giving their input, but if your friends are talking about how long they think it should be, tell them that's the question tonight, right? Tell them they can have input on that. Send something to the email. We've heard 5, we've heard 6, we've heard 7, right? Where's the sweet spot? The more input we get from the community members, the easier it is for us to make that decision, right? So I would just encourage all of you, if you haven't spoke up, or for you to encourage others to send an email so we can know. And thank you for all your conversations tonight.
And there's a lot of data that we went over the last 2 days that will be on the website, hopefully by tomorrow, certainly by the end of the week. The audios, videos, slides, data, whatever we can put up there. There's nothing to hide, and the more we can put up there. But that will go to that queststar.org. We'll put it on.
Unless they are link we should put on that stuff. We don't have it out there, but it's on both of our websites too. You can go. It's right on the first page of both of our websites. But we'll add it now to this slide. Like, so not only the email, but then you can see the FAQs there. We update them every time there's a question that's asked. Right, all the things that are on that link you should be looking at.
No, I thought of one more. And we're also going to try to reduce this down into another handout, a flyer, a mailer. We'll go home. We want to make sure that every community member has it. It's like a 2-week process, and it's quite a bit of money, but we are going to make that. So we'll take the data from the last 2 nights and some sort of flyer will go home to all the community members. Everybody's house will get one in Wynantskill for sure. And then when we have the next set of meetings, we'll do it again.
Our next public meeting, there's a meeting at the Senior Center coming up next week, but our next public meeting is in December at Quest Arbor. And I just want to explain why. As part of this conversation, we meet bi-weekly with State Ed, with BOCES, with John, with Mary, with us, with their teams. And one of the recommendations as part of this process, so that folks feel as though they don't have to come to their home school and ask questions, is to have it at a neutral site. And that's why we, in the conversation with State Ed and BOCES, we're having a public meeting at BOCES at Questar. So that question didn't really come up, but some people might say, why in the world are we going there? Because State Ed is guiding us to make those kind of decisions in a very public way, and we're not doing it to like make folks travel, but we're doing it because the state wants us to have a neutral location, just in case some folks might feel more comfortable that way. My phone number is listed all over the website, on the Questar site, but it's 716-220-2815. You can call me anytime, you can text me, we can set up an individualized appointment, whether it's over the phone, Zoom, Teams meeting, or whatever works for you. We will make ourselves available between Brian and myself. If someone wants to have an individual private conversation and ask deep questions that you feel more comfortable having a human on the other end, or if you want to send an email, whatever allows you to have that conversation comfortably, we want to make sure that we get that information in question, and then we can get an answer in the report so that we can provide both boards meaningful guidance on what their next steps are. One other question? Okay. And then we're going to wrap it up.
I have a mic, but I can wait. I can wait afterwards. It's kind of off the main subject, so I got a sidebar. Super.
Thank you everyone for coming. Drive safely, and we appreciate all of your input.